What up, dude bros? I'm Frank. This is another episode of Versus. In this episode of Versus, we're going over all of the magazine-fed, flywheel-powered semi-automatic blasters. I very often get comments and emails about, hey Coop, which blaster should I buy, this one or this one? And it's very often two semi-auto blasters that are magazine-fed and flywheel-powered, very, very similar platforms. I cannot objectively, definitively answer the question for you, which one should you buy? So I'm going to go over the options on the market right now to hopefully aid in your purchase decision, because I get it. They're very similar. They have a lot of gizmos and a lot of gimmicky things and the marketing ploys from Hasbro. It's kind of confusing. Which one do you buy? I don't know. Well, I know it's a Strife for me, but I don't know which one it is for you, so let's get into it. So all of these products are flywheel-powered, magazine-fed, and semi-automatic. So the Rapid Strike full auto and non-mag-fed blasters are a different class, really. First up is the Nerf Strife. This is the blaster that every other flywheel magazine semi-auto blaster is compared to. And that's for good reason. This is pretty much the most bare-bones semi-auto magazine-fed flywheel-powered blaster out there. It's really small and pretty affordable, but it's also highly customizable. If you want to extend the stock to have a gigantic stock, a little stock, no stock at all, a big barrel, a short barrel, no barrel at all, 2-tack rails, all these tactics, and it's a comfortable, normal blaster that pretty much anybody can pick up and figure out how to use pretty quickly. So you can simply transform the Strife from that into something like this, a totally different looking blaster, and if you want to switch it back, you just pop the attachments off. You can find orange Strifes every once in a while online, but the white modulus Strifes are more common. Either of these are really great options. I'm just going to be upfront with it. This is my favorite flywheel-powered blaster. This is my favorite dart blaster. Rivals in a class of its own, but I love the Strife. You guys know I love the Strife. But the biggest con of the Strife is right out of the box, it's kind of boring. It's just a pistol. You have to buy different magazines. You have to buy a barrel, a sight, a stock to make it really cool. The customization is cool, but you have to spend a bunch more money to make it customized. So I'd say that's the biggest con, but that is the Strife. Next up is the modulus. This is very similar to the Strife. I would say the biggest difference, you have tack rails on each side, so more tactics, that's generally better. An additional top rail, and it's also much longer, so this more or less has a built-in barrel compared to the Strife. And like I said, I'm comparing everything to the Strife because that's kind of the default, the basic option. So if you have to have something really short like a pistol to fit into a holster or something, the Strife would be better than the modulus. But you still have a stock attachment point, a muzzle attachment point, and rails all over the place. That is the modulus. Next up is the Raven. This blaster is a bullpup, which means the magazine is behind the trigger mechanism. There's a pretty good reason to use a bullpup in the real world in firearms, but for Nerf, it's just cosmetic. It really doesn't enhance performance at all. It does give you a different feel to the blaster, and I know some people that like the Raven really like the Raven because it has a unique feel and weight balance. The Raven does not have a stock attachment point because the stock is built into the blaster essentially. It's got a tack rail on the top, it's another one on the side, and a muzzle attachment point for whatever barrel attachments. I think the biggest reason you'd buy a Raven over a Strife or any of these other blasters is the cosmetics, because you like bullpups because they look unique and pretty cool. But the performance of the Raven is pretty much the same as all of these. That's why I'm not even going over it. The rate of fire being semi-auto is identical, and the muzzle velocity of all of these products is essentially the same. So that is the Raven, sort of the snazzy, tactical option in this video. Next up is the Demolisher. The Demolisher comes in orange and the new modulus white one as well. Newer, this is like years old, never mind. The Demolisher has a stock attachment point, tack rail on the top, a side rail, and a muzzle attachment point. In that sense, it's very similar to the modulus. However, it has a built-in rocket launcher, which is super cool and very unique for Nerf. They have a rocket launcher attachment, but that jiggles a little bit. This is built into the shell, so it's much more solid. I'd say the biggest reason to buy a Demolisher is if you use your missiles a lot because your game types really benefit missiles. Some targets can be destroyed more easily with missiles. Sometimes it counts as like 10 darts instead of just one. And quite frankly, it's just really fun to shoot a missile at someone compared to a dart because they fly. It's just funny to shoot somebody with a missile. But keep in mind, you can't remove the missile launcher. So if you only use it for one out of like 20 game types, you're carrying around a lot of extra bulk and plastic that might not be beneficial. So it's great for some situations, but not all. And that's the Demolisher blaster. Next up is the Doomland's Desolator. The Desolator has a built-in stock, no stock attachment point, and no barrel attachment point. It has two tack rails, one here and one here. It's worth noting that the grip is very small on the Desolator. I'm a full-size human. I don't like using this blaster because my fingers get super cramped. If you use a Strife and you have a really small hand and you think, shoot, the Strife is too big for you, check out the Desolator. It might fit your hand better. I'd say that would be the biggest reason to buy this. However, if you're a full-size adult, I would not recommend this one at all. And the cosmetics are unique too, so if that's important to you, maybe you like it, maybe you don't. But that is the Desolator. Next up is the Zombie Strike Revoltinator. The Revoltinator has a long built-in stock, a tack rail up here, and another tack rail here, plus a barrel attachment point, if this barrel isn't long enough, which it's already pretty lengthy. This also has a speaker and a light system, so it makes noise which I find super annoying, but you might like. The grip and the trigger pull on the Revoltonator is just a little bit bigger than the Desolator, but I think this is more cramped than most other Nerf blasters, comparing to the Strife in particular. So I, having a large hand, don't really feel super comfortable with this one, but it's manageable. It's not as bad as the Desolator. I do not like that blaster at all. And this is a good example of an out-of-the-box package that you don't really have to customize because it's already super cool and gimmicky right out of the box. Compared to the Strife, which is super basic and you have to buy a $10 stock, a $10 barrel, a sight, a new magazine, and all of that fancy jazz. Whereas right out of the box, the Revoltonator is kind of ready to go. Comparing that to the decked out Strife, kind of similar. And you don't have to buy all the add-ons. It just comes out of the box this way. So it's not quite as customizable. You can't adjust the stock. You can't make the barrel shorter. But if you don't want to and you want a big blaster anyways, this might work for you because it's all one piece and pretty solid. And that's one of the downsides of the customized Strife. The stock wobbles just a little bit. The barrel wobbles actually kind of a lot. If Nerf makes it, they build it all into one piece of plastic, and this is super firm. So it just feels a bit more stable and more like a complete package instead of a big like jigsaw puzzle, sort of. So there's a pro and con there. You'll have to make that decision for yourself. That is the Revoltonator. Next up is the Ghost Ops Evader. The Evader has a stock attachment point, top tack rail, side tack rail, and a barrel attachment point. And this blaster is super unique because it uses a horizontal magazine, so it's very irregular. You insert the magazine into the side instead of up and down. If you're using really long mags and you're trying to get through a door frame, you're probably going to clip it, so it happens. The Evader is also painted clear, which I think is super cool. You can see the trigger move, you can see how everything works because everything's clear. So if you're more mechanically minded, you might enjoy being able to see their flywheels, the barrel, the trigger mechanism, you can even see the batteries. It's a different experience. Some people want to cover it up and paint it and out of sight, out of mind, that type of mindset. Other people want to see the internals. That's cool and all, but the horizontal magazine, I think it makes this blaster really, really unique, and that's kind of the selling point or the avoiding point. If you're looking for classic ergonomics and all of that, this is far from it. It has a very unique feel. I'm sure some people will really enjoy the Evader, but others will just get kind of annoyed by everything being a little bit different. I personally do not really like horizontal magazines. I prefer a vertical mag like a classic blaster. Like a Strife. I already told you it's my favorite. That is the Evader. Next up is the Nerf Fortnite AR. The Fortnite AR has a built-in stock, no stock attachment point, a very long tack rail on the top, and no barrel attachment point. I would only recommend this product to Fortnite fans that want to use the product that's in your video game. If you're a normal Nerfer, I don't think there's any reason to spend this much money on a Nerf blaster that's equivalent to a Modulus or any of these other products I'm talking about. You pay a lot more for that Fortnite logo, for the trademark or whatever. It's a fairly classic feeling blaster, but there's no customization. So if that's important to you, obviously this would not be great. And it's just quirky in general. I mean, the rail does not run parallel to the barrel. It's just weird. That bothers me. It may not be important to you at all, especially if you're using these gigantic irons with no attachments. But that is the Fortnite AR. Next up is the Fortnite SMG blaster. This product does not have a stock attachment point, it has no tack rails, and it does not have a barrel attachment point. A serious lack of tactics. This blaster, in my opinion, is totally just a downgraded Strife. It's pretty much a Strife that they painted purple and they took away all of the tactics on. I need my tactics, bro. The only reason to buy the Fortnite SMG is if you're a huge Fortnite fan and for some reason you don't want a Strife. For 99% of you out there, totally buy a Strife. This blaster, why? I don't get it. I get it. I'm just not a Fortnite fan, so I don't care. I need my tactics, bro. That is the Fortnite SMG. Next up is the Alpha Strike Flight. This blaster has a built-in stock, no stock attachment point, a barrel attachment point, and a tack rail up here. This blaster is in the Alpha Strike series, so it's a budget blaster and it feels pretty cheap. I go over that more extensively in the Flight review that I've already published. But it doesn't feel quite as high quality as other Nerf products. The selling point here is that it's a little bit cheaper than a Strife with an equivalent setup here. I would say the only reason you'd buy a Flight over the other products I've talked about is if you have a really small hand. The grip here and the trigger length are small and really optimized for a really tiny hand. So if you have small hands, you might consider this one or maybe the Doomlands Desolator. But if you're a full-size human, this will get really annoying to use. I definitely recommend a different product. But that is the Alpha Strike Flight. There are a few more blasters I'm talking about that I don't actually have in my studio. So old footage will have to do, unfortunately. First, the Nerf Cam. The Nerf Cam is cool because it has a built-in video camera, so you can record barrel footage. The camera, however, is of very low quality. It's difficult, it's low resolution, low frame rate, and it's difficult to see the darts. And without a gimbal, it's really jarring and kind of nauseating to track with the barrel. So I think the best reason you'd want to buy the Nerf Cam is the form factor. It's a very cool looking blaster with a permanent stock and a pretty long barrel. I personally think the Nerf Cam looks really cool and it holds well in the hands as well. This one's not on store shelves, so it's kind of expensive, so I don't recommend it to many people, but if you're really into the ergonomics and stuff, it is a solid blaster. Next, the Rebel Rapid Red, which is kind of a Rebel Strife. Serious lack of tactics and it's difficult to find. Honestly, I just recommend a Strife over this one unless you really, really like the cosmetics of a Rebel. And the last two, the Star Wars First Order Stormtrooper blaster and the Sergeant Jyn Erso blaster. Both of these are prop-style blasters, which really aren't targeted at normal Nerfers. If you're a Star Wars fan and you want a semi-auto flywheel-powered magazine-fed blaster, these are great options. But the main reason to buy these is the cosmetic appeal, because you want a blaster that looks like a movie prop. But as far as performance and customization and the tacticalness of the products, whatever, they're just prop-style blasters. So there's an overview of almost all of the products that are available right now. And that is, again, flywheel-powered, mechanically operated semi-auto with a magazine by Nerf. Again, I'm not here to tell you which one to buy or which one is best. I'm trying to go over the pros and cons, kind of to shed light on different issues that I found with each of these products. Hopefully you can take all of this information and make an educated purchase decision, because I get it, it's kind of overwhelming. All of these products are so similar, you might think, which one's better? Am I going to regret purchasing this one compared to this one? So that's kind of the objective overview of those products. Now, if you need my personal opinion, here are a few. Out of all of these products, I would recommend the Strife and the Raven. Both of these products are customizable enough and small enough and affordable enough to kind of last a long time. If you purchase a gimmicky product or something that's highly specialized, it might not be practical for you in a month or two. You might get bored of it. The Revoltinator, for example, looks really cool, but after you have this in your hand for a few hours, you might kind of get bored of the cosmetic, and there's no way to change it. The Demolisher is really cool, and I really like shooting missiles, but if suddenly all of your games stop featuring missile launchers, you're just carrying around a bunch of bulk. So you might outgrow these blasters and get sick of them, and then they stay dormant in your closet. Whereas the Strife and the Raven are sort of more neutral. They're easier to customize. So if your tastes change, you just switch out the stock, you switch out the barrel, you run it as a pistol, you switch mags. You can customize it, and you can essentially turn the Strife into any one of these products. So this is really the safest option in my opinion. I also mentioned the Raven because cosmetically it's pretty cool, it's unique, it looks different. The bullpup feature is more irregular than the standard classic Strife. It's not better or worse, but it is cool, and I know a lot of people that really like the feel and the ergonomics of bullpups. But again, for the 20th time, that's totally my personal opinion and not objective at all. So if you want to buy an evader with a weird horizontal mag, cool, go for it. As long as you enjoy it, your money is well spent. The muzzle velocity out of all of these is pretty similar, and you can put in whatever magazine you want. So at the end of the day, these blasters are so similar that you're really not going to go wrong buying one compared to the other. So that's it for this episode of Versus in this semi-auto, flywheel-powered, magazine-fed showdown. Hopefully I've laid out all the information in a helpful way to help you with your purchase decision. If you're interested in purchasing any of these, I'll put buy links in the description box below. Keep in mind, some of these are not going to be available. Some of them are already very difficult to find. But I'll do what I can. That's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, bros, and as always, stay tactical.